I think Chet's going to play 30 to 32 minutes per night. I don't think he's going to get all the way up into that 35, 36 that we've seen from mostly seniors in Gonzaga's tenure. Corey Kispert played about 35 per night. Mark Few doesn't usually do that to freshmen. I mentioned there could be some concerns with fatigue, or at least he's going to change his body pretty dramatically this year. So I don't know if we'll see him get all the way up into that 35, 36, especially because Gonzaga has so much depth and they don't necessarily need to run him out there that much, but he's going to play a lot. I think he's going to shatter the blocks record. I talked about that already. I think it's going to happen. He's that good of a shot blocker in the WCC where, these guys just don't have a chance. And I think it allows Gonzaga to, I think they're going to let him stay down by the rim a lot. I mentioned the possibility of him coming out and playing, being a defensive big man on pick and rolls, particularly against teams that have enough talented guard play where they could really exploit a big man who is a step slow on the pick and roll like Drew Timme was against Baylor. So I think there's the possibility that Chet comes out there, but I think for the most part, he's going to play around the rim. And if Chet's playing, or if Drew's playing away from the basket, I think Drew's going to be much improved in that area. I don't think that the struggles we saw him have against Baylor are necessarily indicative of a full season's worth of those struggles once again. I just don't think that's going to happen. But when it does, and when these guards get around Drew, when it happened against Baylor, and to be clear, Jared Butler, Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague is an elite group of guards, unlike a group of guards that Gonzaga will possibly ever face again. So that is an important caveat when discussing that game. But when those guys got around Drew, they got lay-ins. This year, if whatever team, Texas, who has a good group of guards, UCLA has a good group of guards, when they get around Drew, they have to then try to score on Chet Holmgren, who is going to be under the basket. That is a very different scenario than what happened in the Baylor game. It will be much, much more difficult. Chet's not going to be perfect. He's probably going to commit some fouls in some of these situations. Good, savvy guards will still be able to score on him. But for the most part, it's a massive improvement over what happened in that Baylor game. I think we're going to see some streakiness in the shot. I mentioned 40% is the best case, 33% as maybe the worst case for him as a three-point shooter. As you would expect, I expect him to be somewhere in the middle of that, maybe a 36, 37% three-point shooter. I do think we'll see some streakiness. Again, very few players come in and just light it up from downtown night in and night out consistently as true freshmen. It's just very rare. And I think that he has so many other skills that the three-point shooting is not going to be this hugely significant part of his game. Now, Gonzaga could really use it for lots of reasons. I think they'll use it as a zone against the zone quite a bit. I think they'll use it as a way to give Drew Timme more room in the paint, pull defenders away from the basket, which allows Rasir Bolton and Hunter Salas and those guys to get to the rim with more ease. But I also think that he's going to do a lot of his scoring around the rim. And I think he's just going to have, he's not going to be consistently 40% night in and night out. He's just going to have some struggles, and that's okay. It's not going to be something that really makes or breaks this team in any capacity. And then I'm curious how the pairing with Timme is going to work. We've talked about it ad nauseum. We've talked about it so much, and not just me. Other podcasts have talked about it. People have written articles about it. It is a hot button issue for this team. And I say issue as in discussion point. I don't think it's really a problem. These two guys are really, really good. Having two super talented players on your roster that you have to figure out how to make them work together, not a bad thing necessarily. It's just a fascinating thing. And it should be discussed and it should be talked about because it's interesting. And there are some wrinkles, some things that they need to iron out, namely the defensive rotations and how that's going to look and what they're going to do with Chet and how they're going to move Drew Timme around and how comfortable they feel having him play away from the rim, all that stuff that I've already discussed. Offensively, they have so many options. There are really no bad options. If Drew has improved at his outside shot, then there are absolutely no bad options at all. Drew can step away from the rim. Chet can play down low. They can switch. Most teams, particularly in the WCC, don't have two bigs capable of guarding these guys at all. So somebody is going to have to be going up against somebody who's just is 6'6", 6'7", and not used to guarding big physical guys. Whoever has that guy on him should just go back to the basket and just score with ease. Like imagine putting your 6'4" or your 6'6" power forward on Drew Timme. Like he's just going to go to work every single time. And then if you switch that guy into Chet Holmgren, it's not going to be a whole lot better. So It's going to be absolutely ridiculous to see these two guys work together offensively. I don't think there's going to be there's not really a wrong way to do it, I guess is the best way to put it. Defensively, there's some things they need to iron out. They have some saving grace with Anton Watson, who's such a good defensive player and is capable of playing both the 5 and the 4 spot and the 3 spot defensively. That will help them out quite a bit. But I don't think it's an issue that's going to really cause them a lot of problems, in the sense that those two guys on the floor at the same time may be slightly less than optimal defensively, but it's so dang elite offensively that it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. They're going to be that good. The last thing I'll say is I don't think he's going to be the number 1 pick. I really think that Banchero is probably going to take that mantle. He's like a 3-point shooting, like a hybrid of the Blake Griffin who dunked on everybody and the Blake Griffin who shot threes over everybody. That's who Paolo Banchero is. I think if he looks like that guy at Duke, he's going to be the first overall pick. But I think Holmgren, I don't think he goes lower than 5, unless there's some guys who really surprise us. And there could be some guys, Jalen Duren from Memphis, Jaden Hardy from the G League. Those are some really studly dudes. There's some really good international players that I think could vie for some top 5 spots. But I think realistically, if you were setting an over-under on basically will Chet Holmgren be the highest selected player in Gonzaga history, so the over-under is 2.5. If he's lower than that, he's tied with Adam Morrison. If he's higher than that, he's the number 1 guy. I think I'm going to lean yes. I think he's the front runner to be either the first or the second pick in the draft, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him drop 3, 4, 5 somewhere in there. But either way, he's going to have an incredible Gonzaga career. He's must-see TV. It's going to be super, super fun to watch him in a Gonzaga uniform. And I can't wait. Seasons are coming. 10 days away. 10 days away from when I'm recording this. By the time you're listening to this, it is 9 or less days away until that opener against Eastern Oregon on Halloween. It's going to be so much fun. 10 player previews are now done. We have completed them. We got about 4 or 5 more, I believe, to get through next week before that exhibition opener. Super excited to talk about the rest of the guys on this team. We also got a Mailbag Monday coming up. Mailbag is always on Monday. I record them on Sunday nights, publish them on Monday mornings. If you want to get involved in Mailbag Monday, there are a bunch of ways you can do that. Reach out to me on Twitter at On Zags or on my personal account at ScoreZagsScore. Just shoot me a question on there. Say it's for Mailbag Monday. I will write it up. I'll put it in my note sheet. I'll get it into the show. You can also email me at andypatton013@gmail.com if you have questions for that show. It's going to be a super fun one. The last one before we have at least seen them play competitive basketball. It will be an exhibition, but this is still the last one before then. Super excited about it. A reminder also, you can find this podcast wherever you already get podcasts. It's going to be on YouTube very soon. And of course, like I mentioned already, you can follow me on Twitter at ScoreZagsScore. You can also find this podcast on both Instagram and Facebook, currently at ScoreZagsScore. So if you're not following those accounts, you can go ahead and find them there. And finally, thank you again for making the show your first listen of the day. Now is a great time to make your second listen of the day, the Locked On NBA podcast. You can get all of your daily NBA updates from a variety of league experts while checking in on your favorite Zags playing at the next level. All right, thank you all for listening, and go Zags.